Welcome everybody to May's edition of the Medical Cannabis Seminar and Support Group, the New England Medical Cannabis Seminar and Support Group. We are welcoming yet again Ibn-Hashim Bakari of Harmless Health and Iron Chef Thomas Hunold. And we have a very different approach to today's show. We had intended on foraging for indigenous foods and then returning back to the cafe to serve up some CBD-infused delights. But we are rained out a little bit, and we're hoping that things are going to lift soon. It does look like it's getting better out there, so we may still be able to go do our foraging adventure. Everybody's all dressed up and ready. So thank you guys for coming.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pecher.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing us to come back again.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for taking time out of your busy day to join us for this. So guys, we had talked on the phone and we put together some ideas about what kind of foods we were going to be looking for today, and I know you guys even went so far as to create a backup plan should something like this happen unforeseen. So tell the audience a little bit about what we were discussing.
So what we were discussing is, basically in the certain times of the year, you can go into our backyard and go pick things that are grown from the ground, just like your hemp is grown from the ground. So why can't we use that? We were going to go ahead and go with some spring items, some ramps, fiddleheads, a few other items, especially fungi. And right now it's probably perfect weather for fungi, but I know everybody doesn't want to get wet, and the camera doesn't want to get wet either. So what we do in the back of the house in any restaurant, we revise quickly, and I think this is a pretty cool concept right here. Some good suggestions why we just do it in the barn and just start talking about CBD, and not only just the cooking part, but what the doc is doing out here at the Doc Wellness Center and what's going to be coming up in the future.
Perfect.
I almost feel like I'm at an old school towns meeting.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
It does, and it kind of segues into what we're talking about. We're talking about cannabis, but particularly talking about CBD and hemp. And that's something that's associated kind of like with the community that we have here right now. We're actually in a barn. We're in New England. We're talking about food. We're talking about cannabis. And it's actually legal to have this conversation right now. It still amazes me that, we're at an age where we're actually freely able to talk about this and talking about it in a business sense, but also in a health sense. I think everybody that is attending today is, trying to find natural healing, and that's the reason why they call you the country doctor. It's not just a gimmick, but it's actually a doctor that is truly about holistic medicine and also looking further with alternative medications such as CBD.
Yeah, it's true, Ibn. It's always been our mission to unify traditional medicine with holistic medicine. And it's really, I'm not discovering anything new. This is what people in Europe do. It's just been disconnected here for some reason from nature and things like that, and there's many reasons for it, but I feel like people are waking up and starting to see that there is another way and embracing it. And we've had some tremendous successes with medical cannabis and healing of patients, whether it be prostate cancer, other cancers, but rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, MS, Parkinson's, all kinds of different problems. So it's really something we should all be looking at. And I think realistically in the next 5 years or sooner, I think we're going to see CBD as a regular in multivitamins. It's going to be that commonplace that it's an anti-inflammatory and it's good for everybody, and it's just going to be part of life. So
better yet, a lifestyle.
Yeah,
it'll be a lifestyle.
You can see some people changing or adding it to their lifestyle already. If you go like back in Rhode Island, you see I've seen on some big fitness gyms, CBD protein shakes available. So now the bodybuilders and all the athletes, they're like, oh wow, I just worked out real hard. I know it heals me, and that's the CBD part that helps them recover from that workout.
Yeah, so tremendous.
I don't
So,
work out much.
so I think, we all seem to have a common mind, and I think you guys all came out today probably hoping to learn more. Does anybody have any specific question right now? Or any kind of, besides going for a beautiful walk, which hopefully we can still do, we'll see. We'll also get to the ingredients that we were talking about earlier. But does anyone have any questions about cannabis or CBD now? Or
Where do you buy it? How do you know what to buy?
okay, so that's a great question, and it's exactly what we were talking about a little bit before. So there are two forms of CBD, I guess, legally speaking. So one form is from hemp, which is a legal plant, and you do not need a medical marijuana license to consume that. And that's kind of being treated as a supplement right now by the feds. And so, yes, that's what you see for sale in the gas station or in random stores or health food stores. And so my main message to everybody again is sourcing. Please read the label. When you look, first of all, take a look at the ingredients. What's in that product? If there's a whole bunch of red dyes, colors, additives, all this crap, that can't be good for you. So right off the bat, that's obvious. But then, even more importantly, where is that CBD coming from? What country? Who? Where was it grown? As we mentioned, it's a plant of remediation. So it's used to clean up environmental disasters such as oil spills or radiation leaks, like nuclear accidents, things like that. So then you've got a beautiful hemp crop, and what would somebody be tempted to do with that crop potentially? So, do you really want to be buying that, or would you rather be buying something organic from a small farm where the chances are pretty good that it's never been sprayed or has any heavy metals or pesticides. So sourcing is key. Now, if you're looking at CBD coming from cannabis, the cannabis plant, so cannabis sativa, here in Connecticut, we're very lucky because the state actually mandates testing for pesticides and fungus and heavy metals and all these kind of things. And so when you go to buy it from the dispensary, and if you're a patient and you have the card, you now have safe access to something that it really is what it says it is.
But I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Doc,
go
but
ahead.
but one of the things that should be a correction is that not all registered dispensaries are carrying the cannabis hemp. You're starting to see other establishments, as you were referring to, that do also carry that. But also, I think we're all guilty of doing some type of online shopping. And so online shopping has now become an easy access to CBD. You'll get those pop-ups that you'll see, or you'll get those, spam emails about, get CBD here. It's legal in all 50 states. And, so that's now the catcher. I recently just watched a video that I believe I shared with both of you where in Massachusetts, they actually randomly collected several different CBD products and took them to lab testing companies, and they found that majority, if not all, of the products were not registering the proper milligrams. And if any of you that have already purchased any type of CBD product, you know how expensive it is and how that price goes up based on the milligrams that are listed there. So this is something that, as you talked about earlier, about, there is really no regulations on it. And come Friday, there will be a conversation from the FDA on May 31st about where the Fed is going to go with the industrial hemp and what it's going to allow and what mandates that they're going to be proposing. So I would encourage all of you on the 31st, Friday, to be watchful of what the Fed is going to say about this, because being in business, when I started, 3 years ago, it was okay. And the regulations were just that. There were none. There was no special licensing that was required for you to be a retailer of it. As long as in some states, there's no mandate for testing. So when you're emphasizing testing, it's very important. We've talked about in some of our other segments about testing. I actually have even brought in some actually hemp products for folks to see, like, just visually, can you see the difference between actually THC and CBD? There is none. By smelling it, you don't see the difference. The only difference that you will see is going to be on that lab test that is now going to break down what that percentage is. The lie that is existing right now is this: there is at least some percentage of THC that are in CBD products. If it's a 0.3, if it's a 0.6, even though it may say 99.4, 99.2, 99.8, that means that there is still that 0.02, that 0.03. So understand that when that test result shows 100%, it's like, no, it doesn't. A true test will show you that it was that 99.4.87%. Those are true numbers. But we live in a society where we round off everything. So we're going to say that it's 100.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, leading to what you're saying, I don't know if we're going to make it, but it only makes sense to. I always find that visual aids are good. It's almost like a show and tell.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about reliability, Rhode Island was one of the 11 states in the country to actually go medicinal. So that's 12 years that they have been working at getting its medicinal laws right. And so with the startup of hemp, I'm actually was able to work with a local company, whereas I was initially, I still do work with a company out in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm now working directly with a company out of Warwick, Rhode Island that is called American Standard Hemp. And they essentially are doing exactly what the industry should be doing. They are licensed by the state. They're one of two companies that is authorized to actually produce its own distillate and its isolate. And so today what I've done is I've actually bought some of those CBD products, because we continue to talk about, like, well, where do you get it? It's like we don't know where. We don't have the access because we don't have those commercials that are on television yet. But yet you're getting the advertising through social media. So I've done my due diligence to ask those tough questions because I've been in the industry and I know what you should be looking for. And they was able to be spot on every single question that I asked. And above that, I actually now started learning things from them. So we wanted to, just kind of like show you guys some of the things that are out there, because everything is practically medicated with CBD now. I have some breath sprays for you. I have some tinctures. I have some. Oh, what is
Did you happen
this?
to have one of those pet ones?
I may have brought a pet tincture.
The pet, they were fortunate. We were fortunate.
I'm gonna actually
to,
hand these things around.
use some products, and they have one specifically designed for your pet.
Yeah,
And
I give it to my German Shepherd.
So my
Her hips are much better.
American pet, that's
Yeah.
what he is. He's 3 years old now, but I seen like a decline in his energy, just laziness. I don't know if it's the tacos that we eat on a regular basis, but I've been giving him this product that's based out of Warwick, and he's a puppy now. Like, I was like, wow, where's all his energy coming from? Like, he's like kind of known, like, where I live, everybody sees him, and he's a puppy. He'll jump on you, wag his tail now.
So as you were talking, Thomas, you were talking about pet
dog
tinctures, and what
feeling
essentially,
better.
yes,
A lot better, but it's noticeable where it's like, oh wow, it was night and day. And like I said, he's 3 years old. I mean, not that he's lacking any energy, but I know how he was when I first saved him. and he was more happier, like running around. And now he just runs up the stairs, down the stairs, whatever it is. So the CBD, it's a game changer, definitely for pets as well, not just us in our bodies.
Now, did you say it was?
You want to hand that to go that
This
way?
one is this was an oil. It was inside a Doppler,
Actually,
and I'm
no, we'll
sure
go this way just to keep everything going.
it's the same packaging on here, the same
Yeah.
Doppler, but it was specifically designed for pets.
For pets, yep.
Yeah.
And I've done things, on my end, do diligently with using items from our earth, like turmeric. I've made turmeric oils, which helps out with anti-inflammatory, which I know he's going to move a little bit faster. And you can see a difference as well. But the product that he's using right now in his food, I give it to him in the morning, and then I give it to him at night. It's night and day. Like he's a puppy again.
And again, what we're currently doing is just, handing around samples for folks to see as to how the technology and the industry is changing. Everybody has a different mechanism as far as, or a different method in how they want to medicate with cannabis. When we talk about tinctures, we're talking about the oil that's going to go in the mouth, under the tongue to get into the glands. We're talking about a breath spray that, again, it's going into the mouth, getting into the glands. They're coming out with chewing gums. And then of course you have even the the more popular and the quicker methods in medicating with CBD is going to be with actual flower, which is the actual bud of the plant, and then also vaporizing. So essentially, the industry is now covering a lot of different avenues as far as what way you can do it. And then now we're essentially now changing the profile of you medicating with your foods. Like you can now start off your day where instead of you actually having to go to your pill box, you're actually having your breakfast, or you're having your smoothie, or you're having your coffee, or you're having your tea. Then you're going into you want it in your oatmeal. Do you want it in your cereal? It's like, all right, well now it's like, all right, do you want it on your toast? Well, it's like, yeah, now you have it in a butter form. You got a coconut form. And then now if you start specializing, we're beyond brownies. We're beyond cookies.
But we're still in a bar.
That's a good one. Oh, that's so true. Well, yeah, it has gone very far, and I know that you guys are working with somebody in New York City still who has a cafe that's offering all kinds of things like this now.
Correct. I'm supposed to be going out there next week, and we'll be working on a small menu, and that's what she's going to be doing as well, is adding it to smoothies. You know what I mean? And she already has a coffee out there. It's called Flower Power Coffee House in New York City. That's right in Glendale, and she's flourishing out there as well. So it's pretty cool to see us evolve as a team and being able to help out other people in another state that have been watching us and hey, can you help us out? And absolutely. So
That's terrific.
Because let's face it here. We're talking about cannabis and we're talking about CBD, but again, we only heard the words weed for a long time. It's funny when I go to the doctors and I fill out, when they want to know, well, what are the medications that you're taking, and I actually put MMJ, and then the nurse is asking me, what is MMJ? And I'm like, marijuana. But again, she doesn't know, so that's the acronym for marijuana. It's just like we have the acronym for CBD, was actually called cannabidiol. But a lot of us don't come from the medical field, and those big words can be intimidating. They've intimidated us for decades by the pharmaceutical industry with all of the different names that are out there. So they've kind of shortened it up for us to be able to better understand it. Instead of saying Percocet, you hear perk. Just shortening things up. And talking about Percocets, now they're finally looking at cannabis as an alternative medication for the opioid epidemic, which was caused by I'm just going to put a question mark there. Hey, my name is Ibn-Hashim Bakari. I don't want no problems, okay?
It's here. The epidemic is here. It doesn't matter how,
Yeah.
It's
no
too
matter the
late.
cause.
Yeah.
It's here.
It used to grow all over the place around here. One of the first settlers from England was Hempstead in New London. Guess what his family did?
Wow. Never
Oh,
thought
I
about
never
that.
thought about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I never get it.
So, I mean, hemp was grown all over the world. It wasn't, I don't know if it was being used medicinally, but there were all kinds of ceremonies that were linked to it going back thousands of years. So.
Well, they made, rope and all sorts
Mhm.
of products and things out of it. I mean, the plants, more than just medicinal, it's good for so many things.
Well, and that's exactly in keeping with our philosophy of what we were trying to achieve here on this farm. So not only is it, used to run a nonprofit reintegrating veterans through agriculture and forestry, but also we have put in for a hemp growing license, which is done, and by some grace. And now we're raising money to put up an indoor grow so we could do 24/7 year-round farm-to-table vegetables and possibly indoor hemp. But that's only one type of hemp that produces CBD, and that's like a high yield crop that really is lucrative for everybody actually in this area to grow. But there is another
You wanna
form of
hand them the
industrial hemp
box to
that
put
does
that in?
exactly what you mentioned, which is fiber, biofuel, plastics can be made out of that. I mean, it's just it will literally change the world as we know it. It's going to replace all of these petrochemical products that are polluting and causing a lot of problems.
And not reusable.
That's it.
Biogradable. I mean, we're talking about essentially using the entirety of an actual plant and get all of these benefits out of it. And that is where, as you say, we're trying to get back to, nature. We're trying to get back to what we used to survive on. I mean, I just essentially gave you probably 5 different products with 3 different names and labelings on them, and the technology for the industry is moving just like that fast with cannabis. And I mean, when you talk about, when the prohibition of alcohol came along, I have the question that I asked folks. I was like, when did the breathalyzer come along? How long was alcohol around before breathalyzer was implemented? And now it's like the regulations that they are trying to put on top of this particular plant. It's, again, we live in a democracy, but we also live in a capitalistic democracy. And that's what it essentially is, the bottom line. Trying to get yours. It's like Uncle Sam is trying to get his before we can even begin to start to get ours. And so that's why it's so required that folks like yourself that's in this room to continue to support events like this. And the more educated that you become, then you're able to educate more folks. This isn't a barn full of 21-year-olds that are just looking to try to get high here. I see a mature group of individuals that are truly like looking to try to find an alternative and trying to help them get through their day to day. And I just say day to day because we live day to day.
That's the evolving process. Just like when I was out in South County at 210 Oyster Bar and Grill.
Bless you. Bless you.
The next thing is, can you add it to alcohol? And we went ahead and did that, and now that was the first restaurant in Rhode Island that we actually add CBD product to, alcohol. Then let's go a little bit further. Me and Ibn have been working together on some pretty cool dinners, pretty cool events, you know what I mean? You would never think that you would have seen something like this in a fine dining establishment done professionally, and even actually facilitating the entire program, and it's the educational part. You know, we have it down to a pat where the CBD, you know exactly how many milligrams are inside of each dish, just like a doctor's. You can be off by like 3 milligrams per prescription. You know, I think, you know, that's what this industry is also missing. You know, that the localness, the good tasting food, a good product, and it's taking care of our bodies. Our bodies crave it. They need it. You know, I've been getting more into the CBD part, and I'm liking that because it helps bring down my anxiety level. Whether I'm in the back of the house running a restaurant or I'm in the front of the house running a club, it helps out a lot being able to communicate with people, because what I do for my position is very fast paced. There is no thinking, it's just go time. But the hemp, the CBD, coming from the place in Warwick has helped me out a lot. Just to like, oh, all right, take it easy, and I don't get that euphoric high. You know, you don't need that all the time. And because I like to stay focused, that's my position. That's what I like to do. So we've evolved in adding it to your food that you find in your backyard. Instead of going to the store to purchase it, you know exactly where that product is coming from. You either picked it or your neighbor grew it. You know what I mean? We don't know what's being given into the markets. We were just discussing this earlier, and he's actually made some pretty good candy bars. And we were comparing it to Nestle Crunch. You know, a big manufacturer. You have an assembly line, and it's going to be consistent. It's going to be the same thing. But I think a smaller farm, you know, nobody's using pesticides. A smaller labeling company or a packaging company that's making the chocolates, they're putting more love into that. Nestle, I hate to say the name, but it's manufacturing. You know what I mean? There's not no love. It's a machine love. And he made these.
That's right.
Machine love. Basically, instead of that localness. Wow, man, he put some hard work into that. I can taste that. I can feel that. He's right here next door. We don't know where he is. Some field somewhere in a big manufacturing company. So I think that's what's missing as well, is that professionalism to evolve quickly and how to do it professionally. And Ibn and I have been working together for the past 3 years, and like I said, we've done some pretty cool things that I never thought I would be able to do legally with the CBD product. And like I said, here we are in the barn, still talking about CBD, but this is moving fast and forward and fast.
So it looks like it may have cleared up. How do people feel about walking a little bit in a... Is there any other question, just for filming purposes, because this goes out to our audience at home? Are there any questions that we could answer now, and then we could go out and enjoy the forest a little bit?
I have one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thomas, you were mentioning about the anxiety. So this is an issue I have, where I started out using the percentage, maybe like 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, where it's CBD and they mix it with like a sativa generally. Yeah. And it was really uplifting at first, and then I found like I can't really tolerate the sativas. Are you just doing CBD without any THC, or what's your preferred mix for?
I'm definitely getting there,
Yeah.
and there are some days that I'll go without the THC, and then I'll use the straight, just the hemp, that's just CBD.
Yeah.
And right now I've been using the vape. And it's working, you know what I mean? The only difference that I seen, seriously, was I had less munchies and I was more focused.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Instead, I'm thinking maybe that euphoric high is for nighttime. Like, oh man, I want to go to bed and eat some Reese's, but not during. I have 1,600 people in my establishment trying to stay focused. But it really helps, and it brings down the anxiety. And these products that Ibn had passed around from American Standard Hemp in Warwick, they're doing a pretty good job, and I can't wait to meet them. We have a CBD dinner coming up at Prime Cut Steakhouse at Mezzo Lounge in Providence Saturday.
Nice. So. I want to be sure to get a shot of some of these products, because of the light, maybe we can do it like right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And to also, to the point of your question and to what Thomas just stated, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that I kind of consult you on
Everything.
different things. And so, you know, not to say that Thomas is my guinea pig, but you know.
Listen, we work very well together. You should see us, like I said, everybody's asking, you know, videos in the kitchen, and once we get into the kitchen at Harmless Health, it's a different story. It's like 3 hours and going by, and like, okay.
But it gets to the point where when you're talking about the anxieties that are out there. CBD pretty much falls in that category where okay, you're not going to get the euphoric high, but it can be used both during the day, in the afternoon, and also in the evening. If you need that pick me up with that CBD, you go with something that's on the caffeine side that's going to maybe bring you up there. Now, if you start talking about something more on the natural side, you may go with something that doesn't have like that sugar so that you don't get that crash. But you go with something in that regards. Now, when you're talking about in the evening, you want to look at something that's a little bit more relaxing, that's going to be a little bit more soothing. And if you even need something more relaxing to it, like you may add it to a chamomile tea. Chamomile naturally actually helps you to relax and sleep. And, you have that. Now, we also have now started making cannabis bath bombs. And I would think that you were my next guinea pig in that experiment.
That was a great one, I have to say. Very relaxing. It smelled nice. And were those like, I can't remember. No, yours was just plain no rose petals in there.
No rose petals.
No, it was very good, and your skin felt soft and no irritation, nothing. It was very relaxing, very soothing.
So it's
just in a
induced
bathtub.
by inhaling.
No, you just get in a bathtub. It's a bomb. You throw it in just like you would like a regular bath bomb.
So it doesn't emit vapors that calm you down. It's just the water.
Well, that's a thought. I hadn't thought of it.
Think about Epsom salt.
Yeah.
Which is in the bath bomb.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What does that do to like a sprained ankle? It kind of reduces that swelling. That CBD product, that hemp is going to ultimately do the same thing.
So you don't always have to ingest it. So it does come in creams and
sprays
you could put right on the aching joint. Or like this concept where you're like getting into a bath and your whole body is, relaxing.
Yeah.
But no, you can't get high from that.
I mean, unless you want to have something to smoke on while you're in the tub.
Yeah,
There you go.
Me too.
So perfect. So do you guys want to just quickly say for the camera, and you don't have to get into detail, but just what you were planning on foraging for today?
Definitely fungi. There's a lot of fungi out right now. There's some oyster mushrooms, hen of the woods, chicken of the woods. Turkey tail was the biggest one I really wanted to find. I think we did an episode with turkey tail.
Yes, we did. Turkey tail tea.
Yeah, turkey tail is not a palatable mushroom. It's something you can dehydrate, grind up, and that also reduces our cancer tumors as well. So now we can add that to our CBD product, and there's more. The benefits are much more. Some fiddleheads and ramps.
And what?
Ramps are more like your garlic. You get like a garlic taste or an onion taste from them. Well, I couldn't find any, but I do have some leeks. So just in case, we do have backup plan, and these are your fiddleheads right here. So
the ramps are they're like indigenous to this area, and actually the Eastern Pequot tribal nation has them growing on their reservation. I just wasn't organized enough to get my hands on a couple. But maybe for the next show when we actually cook it,
they're all kind of, I think, similar. From green onions to garlic to shallots. They're all in the same family. They just give it a different.
kind of a mild oniony
Yeah.
between onion and garlic flavors.
You can smell it too.
Especially if somebody doesn't want like all that onion. It's like you said, just mild.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the one.
That's what
There
that's
you go.
for. Are
Yes.
you kidding me?
So the ramps have a skinnier root. They're like
Yeah.
a little kind of little baby of this.
Yeah.
That's how they look.
See?
You might have it.
Props are always good.
Have it.
Always. Oh, yeah.
It's in that family.
I'm sorry?
Is it legal
This is
to grow
illegal.
hemp in America now?
Yeah.
There are special programs that each state kind of have outlined for it, and the states are pretty much doing it because the feds have not. So as the feds come with their ruling and what their regulations are going to be, say May 31st on Friday, we will then maybe have a better understanding as to like, all right, well, what the feds say, but then what does the state say? I'm actually going through the process of understanding, the food and the drugs that the state of Rhode Island is looking at with it being incorporated in food. Because now the Department of Health is like, well, the FDA is like, well, there's these claims that are folks that are saying that it's doing this, but there is no actual real backup, or they don't want to use the backup that's been presented to them over the decades. With that, we're trying to help the industry to better understand it because, again, this is still in its juvenile stage where we're in with this, and a lot of folks are still learning just like how we're learning. There's just some that happened to pick up on it last year. Some folks picked up on it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, and then there are those who have just learned about it today or yesterday. So cannabis and CBD conversation is still very new, so the laws are still very obscure and out there, and it's like so big of a gray area, but it's starting to close in on now having its regulations. And we actually just experienced that last week where, we're working on our 22nd, cannabis infused dinner, where now the Department of Business Regulations has become aware of what we're doing. But, yes. But again, it's like, what? It was something that I was anticipating and was hoping was coming. And that's why it was great for us to be in Connecticut doing what we're doing now, which is the New England Cannabis Seminar, where we have been on camera. We have been doing monthly, seminars with food, infusing it. I haven't received not one phone call from the doc saying that anybody was in the hospital from one of our meals.
No.
I would hope not. I would hope not.
We didn't see the state troopers waiting at the state line when we were coming here, so you know what? I think we're doing pretty good.
No, it's all hemp-derived CBDs.
Yep, and we're doing it the right way.
I'm sorry, we got one. I'm sorry, we
Is
got a
there
question.
any concern about pollination of marijuana, hemp?
That's an agriculture question.
Well, there could be, but the reality is this: that here in Connecticut, all cannabis legally grown is in these like factory type
They're
environments.
indoor grows, indoor
very
cultivation.
Regulated, heavily controlled, and not available to the outside. So technically, if I have a little baby hemp field like I'm going to have 0.4 acres, I have no cannabis around for it to interact with. But let's say if you were in Jamaica and people are growing that, and oh yeah, of course.
From what I understand about like the cannabis that has like the THC in it, you want to keep that away from other stuff for it to be better, for it to get stronger.
How are you gonna keep it from not pollinating and mixing? I mean,
Well,
it's not always gonna be growing inside.
And I agree with you on that comment. And Mother Nature is at some point going to take over, because even inside indoor grows, they have the cannabis plants which are THC that actually hermaphrodite. Because what essentially medical marijuana is the female plant that's been isolated from the male plant. So all of the medical marijuana that is out there that's being smoked, that's being converted into vape, it is coming from a female plant with no seeds.
There's always one seed hidden
Somewhere in there.
I swear.
Mm-hmm.
I look hard for them.
And you look hard for that.
Like, it's like open up the Cracker Jack box and finding like a tattoo in there. I'm like, not today.
It's an amazing plant.
It's something to
It's
add.
beautiful and it's just amazing. And what it's offering us is it's about time. I think it's wonderful. good things happening.
I take so many pills and I would love to replace it with CBD. I look at them and
Well, yeah, and you know, in our wellness center, we have incorporated some holistic strategies that are non-invasive, but also help reduce medication use. So the hyperbaric oxygen chamber and infrared sauna are especially good for joint pains and certain chronic sequelae of Lyme, for example. Some evidence for autism health, but also for people who've had traumatic brain injuries, strokes, PTSD. So there are lots of different things, and the floating salt pod along those lines too. So you can do it. It's definitely doable, but you have to incorporate different things. And most of all, like we were saying, a dietary change, low inflammatory diet, and recognizing what agrees with you and what doesn't. And people who correct their diet in about 2 weeks, it's pretty impressive. They have like resolution of joint pains, swelling, all kinds of stuff. So our diet is truly our medication as well. So many ways, if you approach it holistically, you can totally recreate things for yourself.
Food is medicine.
Do you offer those guidelines and education for anti-inflammatory? Is that all at the wellness center as well?
Yes, and we're developing it more as we go. Even tonight, Nurse Christine Gentry there, she does our Reiki program, but she's also a nutritionist and has a lot of knowledge about diabetes, education and stuff. So we're working out a special nutrition program for people, and I think eventually we'll even offer some meals that can be mailed home that are organic, locally sourced, CBD infused stuff like this. That's kind of on our agenda as well. So,
Now, where is this?
it's right behind my offices in the new Country Wellness Center that's next to the Senior Center here in North Stonington. It's at the Holly Green Plaza. It's like behind the office. It's a big building, 4,200 square foot building with a gym, a commercial kitchen, an event space. We had our business last month.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty new.
Just with that.
Why haven't we, why am I just hearing about this?
I don't know, it's been on Facebook, but maybe not at the time you look, it's possible. But we're doing more advertising now, and more people will hear. But it's definitely there to promote wellness,
That's fantastic.
I have a question about it. Is the shop still is there gonna be like a little
Country
shop?
Barn store in here. I have to speak with the town tomorrow, but we cleaned it out, so we're ready to start selling produce in here, native products, different things like this.
I was thinking at the wellness center, are you still doing a little
We have it in,
CBD and stuff like
it's
that?
all assembled.
Oh, it's ready to go?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I get a question about I've read that there are products like certain kinds of magnesium and other kind of minerals and stuff that support. Like if
Exactly.
you're doing a lot of THC, you start getting memory or something, something that kind of rebuilds that and supports that. That's something that I'm interested right now. I don't know
Yep.
if you have anything to recommend or if that's going to
Well,
be
that's
a
part of it,
later.
Troy. I would,
Yeah.
but always the best piece of advice is good blood work. Make sure that your primary care doctor, whoever you see, does some good blood work and they assess your vitamin status before you start plying yourself with vitamins. You may not need it, so you'll be wasting money, but in some cases we've even seen toxicity. So a very common toxicity is vitamin B6, and it causes neurological problems, numbness, tingling, burning, restless leg type stuff even. And that's a common one in multivitamins. We tell people, oh God, you gotta stop your multivitamin. It's literally not good for you. So get your blood work done so you know where you are, and then go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, we're going to be doing vitamin infusion therapies and different things like this because I'm convinced that it has a role.
Did you just say that B6 is not good for the body?
Well, no, I'm saying in high amounts it can cause toxicity.
Okay,
So
I take 50 milligrams every day from a medication that I'm on.
did someone prescribe that for you?
Yes.
And did you check your B6 level in your blood?
They did.
And it's normal.
Yeah,
Good, then you're fine.
okay.
You're just
Some
fine.
of these truck stop vitamins, they
Yeah.
6,000% in your daily
Yeah, you don't need all that, is what we're saying. You don't need all that. Yeah. All right, cool. So are you ready for a little mini walk? It's not quite, or is it, what's it like out there, guys?
It kind
It stopped? Shall we?
The little.
Yeah, let's go for a
Yeah.
little nighttime.
Go.